Sunshine Band Super Saturday. I'm Dr. Leslie Pace, and I'm here to make sure you know and love your Bible. Let's get into it. Today's lesson is about a little girl. Her name was Esther. Esther was a beautiful young girl. She loved God. She loved her family. She loved her community. One day, Esther's parents died, and she was adopted by her cousin Mordecai. Oh, Mordecai loved Esther as if she was his own daughter. He raised her to love herself, love her people, and to love God. One day, the king was looking for a new queen, and Mordecai said, Esther, you're going to the palace just to see if you can become queen. Well, Esther went to the palace as a young girl. She gained favor in the sight of the attendants. She gained favor in the sight of all that were around her. And most importantly, she gained favor in the sight of the king. Yes, King Ahasuerus chose Esther to be his queen. Oh, that was a joyful day. It was what they wanted. Their dreams had come true. But that joy didn't last very long. There was this man named Haman. Haman was a self-important guy. He was arrogant. He thought so much of himself. He did some good things for the kingdom, and the king decided that whenever Haman was around, people were to bow down and give reverence to him. Well, everyone did. Well, almost everyone, except Mordecai. Mordecai would not bow before Haman, and that made Haman extremely angry. Haman did a little research and discovered that Mordecai was a Jew, and not only was he not bowing down to him, but he didn't serve the same God. They dwelt among them, but they had different rituals. They believed in Jehovah, and they worshiped him. Well, that didn't sit well with Haman. So Haman went to the king and said, King, there's a group of people that's among us, and they don't serve the same God we serve. They don't bow down before me when I come around. So I think it is in the best interest of the kingdom and you that we get rid of, that we kill all of these people. The king said, well, I trust you, so let it be written, so let it be done. And there was a decree put out that on this particular day, that all the Jews would be slaughtered, would be killed, would be annihilated. When Mordecai found this out, this grieved him. He threw ashes on his head, that was a sign of grief, and he rent his clothes, and he went into the palace gates. That was a no-no. It was against the rules to show up at the palace in sackcloth and ashes. And the word got back to Esther. And Esther said, take these clothes to my cousin Mordecai and find out what is going on. So they did. And when they got there, Mordecai told Esther's assistant that we are about to be slaughtered. There is a decree. Here are the papers that on this particular day, all the Jews in the land will be slaughtered. Then Esther sent a message back to Mordecai and said, well, I am just the queen. You know I cannot go into the court unless the king sends for me. Mordecai raised up and he said, tell Esther that even if she is in the palace, doesn't mean that she is going to escape this treachery. She needs to stand up. Esther sent the word back to Mordecai. She was very nervous because she knew that if she went into the king's court without him asking her to come, she could die herself. She told Mordecai, gather all the Jews, you all fast and you all pray, and I will go in unto the king after 3 days. 3 days came. Esther was nervous, but she took a stand. She walked into the outer courts of the king's palace, and he looked at her, and she looked at him. And I'm sure Esther's heart was just beating really fast, because she didn't know what he was going to do. And in that moment, he held out his golden scepter, which meant, "Come in, you're okay." Esther was relieved. She went to the king and said, "King, I am preparing a banquet for you, and I want you to bring Haman as well." The king was pleased, so he went to the banquet that Esther had prepared for him. They were happy, they were laughing, they were telling great stories, eating grapes and strawberries and all of these wonderful things. And then the queen said, "Oh, king, tomorrow I have an even better banquet planned. I want you to come back and bring Haman as well." Oh, Haman was feeling all good because the queen wanted him exclusively at the banquet. Well, they came back the next night. And while they were enjoying themselves and having a really good time, Esther said to her husband, the king, "Oh, king, I have but one favor to ask you." And he said, "Oh, Esther, you can ask me anything. I will give you up to half of this kingdom, whatever you want. I will do it for you." And she pretty much said, "Well, I don't want all of those things. I just want my life and the life of my people to be spared." And the king was like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, king, there is a particular decree that you have put out that on this particular day, all the Jews will be slaughtered. They will be killed, annihilated. And that's me and my people." Oh, the king was heartbroken and he was angry at the same time. And he wanted to know, who did this? How did this come about? And she said, "Your humble servant Haman. He was the one that orchestrated it all." The king was furious. He walked away, and while he walked away, Haman ran to Esther and grabbed her. He was begging for her life, begging for her forgiveness, asking her to have mercy. But in that moment, the king turned around and saw Haman on Esther. And he was like, "What are you going to do? Try to kill her, annihilate her, hurt her, harm her in my presence? Take this man away." And some of Haman's friends said, "Oh, king, Haman has built a gallows to hang Mordecai on. Shall we use that?" He said, "The very gallows that he has for Mordecai, hang him on it." Ooh. Unfortunately, they hung him on there, and Haman died. And the queen said, "King, I know that you cannot take back your decree, but at least make another decree that will give me and my people an opportunity to defend themselves, to stand up against their enemies." And the king said, "So let it be written, so let it be done." And on that day, where the Jews were supposed to be totally annihilated, they annihilated their enemies, and God gave them great victory. Well, my little friends, in our world today, in the United States and all over this world, there are people that dislike you because of your skin color. There are people that dislike you because you're short, because you're tall, because you're lighter than them, because you're a little darker than them. They have so many crazy, idiotic reasons to not like you, and they will do things to hurt you and harm you. Right here in the United States, so many of our black people are being harmed just because of the color of their skin. We cannot sit down and not fight and stand up for what is right. When I say fight, I'm not talking about fist fight, but I'm talking about standing up and saying, "I am a black person and my life matters. I am a black person, and yes, we deserve to be treated equally." Sometimes you have to come out the church and walk the streets and stand up for what is right. Are you willing to stand up for what is right? Although you may be a little nervous, you must stand up for what is right. Oh, Dr. Martin Luther King stood up for what is right. He died standing up for what is right. A lot of our parents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents stood up. They marched for what was right for black people. And like Esther, God gave them victories. And like Esther, God will give us victory now. But first, we need to do what Esther did. She prayed and she fasted and she used wisdom. She prayed, she fasted, and she used wisdom. Through praying and through fasting and using wisdom, God gave them the victory. We will have the victory, and God will give it to us. Pray, fast, use your wisdom. If you want to march, march, but do it peacefully. God is with us. Hello, today our activity is a little different. We want to see how many words you can unscramble from the book of Esther. You think you can do it? I believe you can. What? That's a great idea, Sonny. Sonny wants to know how many words can you make out of the name Esther. Are you ready? Let's go. Count it for him, Sonny.
1, 2,